Yes, welcome everybody to this session. Really excited to have you here and looking forward to doing a deeper dive exploration of the OD space, HR space, and as a generalist as well, and just really digging into a little bit more of the generative AI prompting. I am going to provide a little bit of backdrop in terms of what generative AI is from a broad perspective. Some of you have had a chance to join. We've had these conversations kind of laying that groundwork. Some of you are new. So I do plan to just cover a little bit of that backdrop and have us all on the same level playing field. And of course, this is an interactive session. And what I mean by that is there are a couple of spots that I planned for that are breakout groups. So one of the opportunities there will be to be able to meet some of your colleagues, talk a little bit about what you're doing, how you're utilizing generative AI and prompting inside of your organization today, perhaps specifically in your role, and then also some of the things that you might be doing more broadly in terms of utilizing the tool sets and kind of upping the skills in your organization as well. The focus and orientation is a little bit more towards organization development. Now, that being said, what I mean is that we'll talk a bit about organization design. As I was sharing a little bit just before we got started, I'm going to try out something new I've never done before, which is actually taking an organization chart, dropping it into ChatGPT, and utilizing the tool to get feedback on, what does it think about the general design? And does it see some opportunities where we might reorganize things a little bit more, or perhaps the risk for some bottlenecks as well in terms of workflow? I don't know what kind of answer we're going to get back. And so it'll be an exploration together. But one of the things that, for those of you who have joined me before, one of the things that is that these sessions are intended to be interactive, they are intended to be iterative, and they are intended to be real-time learning. And so, I mean, I've even had cases where individuals have brought specific examples that they're working on right now, and we need to get answers around, or how would we approach them? And we utilize the tool. It's one of the ways that I have found for myself in terms of learning how to utilize generative AI and being able to use it effectively is that, there's a lot of real-time learning that happens. And so, as I'm working with teams, as anyone on the Pendolino group, as we're working with teams and helping to help them design their HR AI strategy, or even just design their organization or deal with certain specific projects or programs. One of the things that we utilize is the power of generative AI tools, and really using that to be able to accelerate us faster to decision points. Okay, so of course, if you're interested in spending a little more time together, the QR code here will, we can hook up and talk a little bit more about what you have going on specifically. But let's go ahead and let's just dive in a little bit. So a little bit more about my background. I have been in the tech industry, or permutations of the tech industry, all of my career. Whether it has been in the semiconductor world, where I started out, semiconductor equipment, software, SaaS solutions, programming, anything along those lines, or other permutations of technology, whether, again, it's in biotech or anything along those aspects as well. So I've had the benefit of being personally involved in a number of different industries. And beyond that, I started the Pendolino Group back in 2009. And the Pendolino Group was started with the intention that good HR, experienced HR, should be accessible to all companies, every organization. And so our sweet spot tends to be companies that are 250 employees or fewer. We work with those companies, provide a full spectrum of human resources expertise, and really sleeves rolled up. So as an extension of the team. So that's a little bit about who the Pendolino Group is. And as the team has continued to grow and our client base has continued to grow as well, what it's really allowed us to do is to tap into and get exposure to just about every single industry. Although I have to be honest, every time I say that, then a new industry pops up that we haven't been involved in. For example, not too long ago, we were invited to work with a client and continue to work with this client that is in the management of sewer systems. Had not been on our list before, and now it is. And so one of the things that you will find, and you probably have found throughout your career as well, is that these practices and these principles that we talk about in human resources are often transferable from one organization to another or from one industry to another. And it's really the stage of the business or the stage of the company, the maturity level of the employee base, all of those aspects that help us as HR professionals fine tune and adjust how things are. So in that context, we've continued to evolve, right, in the world of AI. And so, with that, generative AI has come on to the scenes very quickly. Or at least that has been our experience, and the experience of most of our clients as well, is that generative AI has stormed onto the platform or into the environment as being a tool set that we need to learn how to leverage. And as we're thinking about it philosophically and fundamentally, one of the things that I think is important to understand from my philosophy as well is that AI is a tool for us to use. It's not a tool that's going to replace us. And so some of you may have heard me mention before that I think about it's not AI that's going to replace you or replace my job, but it's the person who knows how to utilize AI. It's the organization that knows how to utilize AI. That's where the risk is, if you will, from that standpoint. So with that, the series of conversations, ones that we've had previously that have been more of an introduction to prompting, and then these more subsequent ones that are intended to be a deep dive into the various what I call sub-functions of HR. The intention behind these is to learn how can we leverage these generative AI tools within our sub-functions. And as we think about all of the sub-functions of HR, right, there are quite a few, right? There's compensation, there's OD/learning and development, we'll call it. There is benefits, there is staffing, there is the generalist, employee relations. I know I'm forgetting a few, but there are all of these different sub-functions within HR. And many of us have our specializations. Many of us also have touched on most or all of those sub-functions as well. But when we do a deep dive into each of these areas, what we find is that there are certain ways we can write prompts, and there are certain ways that we can leverage the tools to help us accelerate the work. So many of you right now might be utilizing AI in such a way that you use it for writing announcements, for example, or doing a newsletter, or responding to emails. That's a common utilization that I've heard of as well. And we're actually going to be using in this session, we're actually going to be utilizing generative AI. I'll be utilizing ChatGPT. All the prompts that I will share with you today will go across any one of the platforms. So we're going to be utilizing the tool to actually do specific bits of work as it relates to our particular sub-function. And today it's around organization development and a little bit of learning and development as well. So what I'd like to do, just to get us started, is if you would drop in the chat, if you'd be so kind, is just to drop in there real quick, what's your current comfort level with AI and the way that you're utilizing it today, whether it is specific in OD or otherwise. If you can just drop in the chat real quick, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being absolute expert, ready to, jump in and lead a discussion like this, 1 being, I've heard of it, I've checked it out a little bit, or I'm very, very new to it and haven't explored it yet. Just drop your number here in the chat so we can kind of get a feel for where everybody's at. Okay, great. Oh, good. All right, excellent. So good 3s. Carol, very new. Love it. Welcome to the train. consider yourself having jumped on the train. All right. And wonderful, wonderful. So we got some good threes. We got some very new. All right. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So as we're going through this, I will keep all of that in mind as well. I'm going to be sharing some aspects that are more advanced prompts. And with that, I think, Carol, you'll see pretty quickly that that framework you will come up to speed on very, very fast. And part of it is because of the way that I like to think about AI. And again, it's a partner that we're working with. So to the degree that we can start to set up conversations with it, we can actually start to get into a rhythm of thinking about the tool, the generative AI tool, as a partner in a dialogue. That's a really helpful little foundation piece and a key takeaway. Okay. So let's go ahead and let me lay some groundwork real quick as we're coming up to speed here. So first off, it's, what is all the hype, right? So this tool and these platforms have come onto the scene. We're starting to use them. We're starting to use them quite a bit. We're accelerating the way that we utilize them. A lot of companies are dealing with the ethical aspects of utilizing AI and generative AI. At the foundation, a couple of things are important, I think, to understand. So, Sundar made this comment in terms of AI and its potential impact, not just for humanity, but I think foundationally for the world of business. We're seeing large investments being made into the technologies as well. And at the same time, we're also seeing the parallel conversations around, well, ethically, when I utilize AI, for example, to screen resumes, now many states require that in that space of talent and talent management, talent development, that I need to say, I am utilizing this AI. I will be utilizing AI to screen resumes, right? We need to be transparent. Fundamentally, I think that transparency is an extremely important element as well as a takeaway. Also, that again, the investment that we're seeing that's taking place here, okay? So it is more and more so that organizations are embedding AI. They're developing their AI strategies. And I think that's an exciting area for us to explore in the space of human resources and organization development, helping organizations develop that strategy. In fact, some organizations are beginning to, when they get out there, they're really beginning to create even org charts that reflect positions or roles that are executed by bots, which is another term for AI, I'll use loosely. So they're representing on their org chart these positions. And the position from a functional org chart standpoint reflects work that's done by a human and work that's done by a bot. And it shows the total picture of the organization and effectively how work flows. Okay. So you're starting to see now organizations really embedding the AI persona, if you will, into their culture, into their organization. Okay. So embedding of the persona into the organization is a way to be able to illustrate, not only from a strategic standpoint, but illustratively, how work flows in the business. All right. So this is a piece as we're continuing to evolve our understanding of AI and our utilization of generative AI. It's an important element to understand how bots and AI, artificial intelligence as a larger category, is being embedded into the businesses, okay? Now, always want to keep in mind, right, that this is an evolution. And, this statement by Peter Diamandis in terms of the two kinds of companies at the end of this decade, right? Those that are fully utilizing AI and then those that are out of business. Now, from Peter's perspective, and I've had a chance to be in one of his deeper dive presentations in this space and ask a few questions around it. Again, from his perspective, he's not viewing AI as replacing humans. He's viewing AI as being accretive to what we're doing. And so from that standpoint, if you're one of the voices in your organization helping to get people comfortable with AI and how to leverage it, one of the things you might come up against is a deep-seated fear that this tool or this technology is here to take over my job. Now, in HR, we've come across that so many times, right? I mean, through the course of your careers, I'm sure that you've had instances where you've rolled out a piece of software, for example, and in order to get the adoption of that software, there's a change management component, right? So one of the things that we'll explore a little bit deeper as well, and we'll utilize AI to help answer this question, is around change management, okay? And it's really quite fascinating when you ask ChatGPT the question, how can I get people more comfortable utilizing you, ChatGPT, as a tool in our organization? Okay. So again, based on your familiarity level and your comfort level in terms of utilizing the tool, remember it is a partner with us, and we want to think about it that way. Again, thinking back to that org chart and the personas. Okay. So where are we headed? So we're going to do a little deeper dive here in terms of the capabilities of the tool set. I will talk a bit about good prompting, strong prompts, and not such good prompts, as I want to lay that foundation again, so we're all on the same level. And even as expert users or comfortable users in the tools, these are always good refreshers, right, to get to those foundational pieces. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those as well. And then we'll take a look at a couple of prompts. I do want to hear also how you're utilizing the tool inside of your organization today in different applications. And we may actually take a couple of examples together and work on creating those. Okay. All right. So let's talk generally about leveraging AI in your OD strategy. Okay, so from an OD perspective, from the organization design and organization development, from that perspective, there's certain things that are always important to us, right? We're thinking about what are the capabilities of my organization today? What's the capability of the skill set that's in my organization today? And how can I advance that? How can I grow the organization? How can I grow the skill set? How can I advance where we are based on the business strategy that's at hand, right? And then you may also be answering questions around how do I design the organization? How do I ensure people are focused on the right goals and objectives? What are some of the skills that I need to develop? Right. So these are some of the types of questions that we often ask in the world of OD. And then we cascade that down into very specific coursework, program work, agendas, those very specific elements. Okay. Time permitting, I'll even do an outline for you. And I'll show you inside of ChatGPT how we can say, hey, I've got this period of time and I've got this particular audience that I'm speaking to on a particular topic. Please, share with me 3 primary goals and objectives and give me a brief agenda, how that event might flow. So we've got those 2 pieces. And Naomi, if you would be so kind just to capture that to make sure that I do a little prompt demo of that as well, that would be great. So that'll just be, I'll actually show you how we can go from the broader statements down to some very specific coursework design as well. So in terms of leveraging then, the key takeaways that we want from this is that we want to be able to identify what those key areas for AI integration are. Now, I shared with you a little bit in terms of integration points can be around the who is doing what. So specifics where we're utilizing bots, for example, to do certain pieces of transactional work. And we're capturing that illustratively, even capturing that in some cases on org charts, right? It might also be integrating the utilization of AI into roles like my own, for example, right? So how do I ensure that people have the skills to utilize, right? And this is a little bit of the fun that I think we get to have in HR by virtue of our role and our responsibilities across the organization. Because it also allows us to help inform how we can, as a business, as an organization, how we can invest in the right talent and technologies, right? So being able to identify the strategy and investment toward that strategy. So in OD, our question is often, what talent do I need? What do I have? And therefore, what is my gap? And is it a gap that I will develop as an organization? I'll develop the talent, or is it a gap that it makes sense for me to go out and to acquire, to hire in? Okay, so that's a little bit of what we call like that buy or make strategy. So applying that here in the space, and that's another area where we can leverage AI. Now, beyond that, we can also be leveraging AI as a way to ensure the quality of our data and the governance of our processes and our data. And so in a future session, we'll be doing a deep dive into the utilization of AI to look at data and look for patterns in that data and be able to help us craft a story around those patterns, right? And also to show us where there are gaps in that data. An interesting little tidbit in this space is that we have one client who was looking at a large database of prospective clients, and it was their HubSpot database. They were looking at all the details and they realized that there were quite a few missing data elements in there: address, phone number, even some addresses they weren't quite sure if they were accurate or not. And what they opted to do was to do a complete download, a CSV file download of all that data, and put it into ChatGPT with the prompt that said, please validate mailing addresses, validate the phone numbers. If there is not a phone number, please find it on the web, find that information. If there's not an address or the address needs to be changed, please update the file with the correct information. Again, using the internet as that resource, as that data reference point. And so what they ended up doing was saving themselves a tremendous amount of work on the front end. And then from that point, they were able to put a human on it to do final validation, spot checks, a couple of phone calls out, a couple of verifications, and went about it that way. So it was kind of an interesting application and a way to utilize this data if you're in any of those spaces as well. And we'll do a deeper dive on that in a future session. Also, another way to leverage AI into your OD strategy is around culture. So all of us in the world of org development and employee engagement, that is a topic, and it's an important topic. And so from that standpoint, one of the ways that we're able to utilize AI is to look at sentiment. An example of what I mean by that, you can take a string from Slack, let's say, if you utilize Slack or Teams chat, something like that. If you have an open channel that you utilize in your organization for people just chatting back and forth, sharing perspective, sharing opinion, sharing whatever, you can take that information, you can copy it, you can paste it into your AI tool. Again, I use ChatGPT. I use the paid version. It's well worth the $19 a month, I can tell you. And so they'll take that information. You can take that, drop it in to ChatGPT, and ask ChatGPT to give you a response back in terms of the sentiment. So what's the level of emotional engagement that's taking place in this conversation? What's the level of distance, if you will? Do people seem to be generally happy? Do there appear to be any areas of concern or nuances that are coming out in terms of the choice of language or the commentary or the way people are responding to each other? So you can utilize the tool to help you capture the sentiment or the nuances from a string of communication like that. Okay. Now, I'd encourage you, if you have any direct references to the company, like, here at HubSpot, blah, 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 just using HubSpot as an example. Go through, scrub that, just go through and say, okay, take out HubSpot and just say, here at the company or here at company XYZ. So you can do that as a quick swap and replace inside of Microsoft Word or inside of Google. And you can just kind of do that quick swap. So you put scrub data into ChatGPT. Why I suggest that is that the ChatGPT environment, while the information is not explicitly shared out onto the internet, of course, it is still retained inside of ChatGPT's servers. And so specific references to companies, if you have a sensitivity around it, then you can just do your own quick find and replace, and then drop it in and do a sentiment review. And it provides some fascinating feedback, nuances that we often don't pick up ourselves as OD practitioners, but often are things that we have a sense is going on. So using the technologies as a way to be able to scrub that data is really, really helpful. Okay. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to drop you into some breakout groups here real quick, probably about 2 or 3 people per group, and just to have a very quick conversation around where you're utilizing AI today. Are you using it in your company? And if you're not, that's fine. If you're new to this is again, it's new technology coming onto the environment and to the platform with us and work in the work environment. How are you using it? Where are you using it? And a little bit about your experience in how you're using it as well. And I'll just drop you into some groups to be able to have those conversations. We'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to have a quick chat about that, and a chance to get to know each other as well. Okay. So let me go ahead. I'm going to, looks like we've got about 12 people. So I'm going to do 4 breakout rooms here. And actually, let me do 3 breakout rooms here real quick. So we'll get 3 to 4 people per group. And let me go ahead and I'll drop you in here. Okay. And there we go. All right, excellent. Okay, I'm going to drop you into groups here, and I'll be joining group 2 as well. So I'll pop in there and say hello to everybody. And we'll just give ourselves 2 to 3 minutes to chat a little bit about how your company is utilizing AI today. And then we'll come back. We're going to dive right on into prompt writing. Here we go. All right. Just give ourselves one more minute here. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll return back here. All right. Okay. Again, 60-second warning. Okay. Back in.
Hi. So I guess I kicked myself out of my room. Sorry.
No worries, Phil. No worries.
I meant to
All
put
right.
cancel and I accidentally hit leave.
I love it. That's great. That's great. All very good. All very good. All right, everybody, we're back in. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So I would love to just hear a little bit in terms of just some observations. Anybody wants to pop in here real quick and share a little bit about, how you're utilizing AI today in your organization. And then we're going to dive into some of the keys for powerful prompts. All right, Rusty, go for it.
A couple things. One is that Shelly, she's been kind of a power user of it. So she's been teaching me some stuff, which has been kind of fun. And so one thing that she does, which I really appreciate, is that when she's doing recruiting, she takes people like she takes the job description, uploads it, and then she looks at, let's say we're screening 4 people, and then she says, okay, upload their resume and then their cover letter, and then says, okay, with a prompt, like what is the gap here in between for the job description and what they have the experience. And what questions could we ask? What interview questions could we ask to address those gaps? I'm like, that's really clever, right? So
Yes.
what I'm doing here in the next few weeks is and I've been planning this and I've been talking to a lot of people, but I'm creating what I'm calling an AI sharing circle. So that way, I've identified like 3 or 4 power users that are already using it a lot, like Shelly, that in these creative ways. They're gonna it's an optional meeting for the staff. They're gonna present, oh, okay, here's some ways that I use it. And then the rest of the staff that are like curious about it then can like ask questions. And because like I said, I've learned things by like I never thought of that before. And so we can all kind of learn from each other as this new emerging technology really starts to blossom.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I really, really love the idea that you have of bringing together internal power users and then even opening that up to others to be able to come in and learn and see and generate that curiosity and that engagement that way and the self-learning, right? Yep, absolutely love that. And for anyone who doesn't know, Shelly is one of the team members from the Pendolino Group and has been working with Rusty and his team over at Institute of Noetic Science for quite some time. And yep, I think we're all on the learning curve together, right? Yep. David, I see your note. Share that out loud. What was that? You want to wish we had been together longer?
Yeah, I wish we had a little more time in the breakout room. It felt like it just went by. It goes by so fast. I got the minute notification. I think we were like not even halfway done.
Oh, I hear you.
That's okay though. I'm currently in between roles. I'm in HR. And so in between roles, but in my last role that I had, I used it for all sorts of different things from survey data analysis, helping me brainstorm I like what I believe Taylor mentioned it in the breakout session, like a thought partner is how she uses it. I would definitely agree with that. So like brainstorming different things, policy creation, job descriptions, even strategic planning to a degree. Now that I'm job seeking, I use it to help me, craft really thoughtful interview questions, researching companies and what they do, practice my answers, tailoring resume and cover letter, all sorts of things in that space. So
Great uses, excellent uses. Yeah. I think that, that's just such an amazing application from a candidate perspective, and then also having been on the HR side and the receiver aspect as well. In the world of recruiting, we've seen AI take off phenomenally well. I mean, AI has been around for quite some time on the recruiting side, the applicant tracking systems and all. I mean, that is AI. And what we've been seeing there in terms of keywords, keyword screening and whatnot. But it's advanced. And now what you're sharing in terms of utilizing it as a candidate, also crafting really thoughtful questions, thinking about responses, your cover letter, all of those are great examples. Rusty, you had something.
Yeah,
Sure.
just sorry, that triggered something for me, that a reminder that I think on the flip side, when I heard you, David, talk about making cover letters with AI, we've experienced too, when someone submits a cover letter, right? And they've clearly used AI. So it's like, really? Like, and then when you call them and talk to them, you're like, oh, this is very different than what their AI version of the cover letter was.
yeah.
So that's another issue then on the other side of the recruiting, we have to figure out and to navigate that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When I do it for cover letters, I have an idea in mind of what story I want to tell for that specific role. And so I will usually give ChatGPT in this case a starting point of like, this is what I'm thinking about. This is the message, the tone. Help me write this cover letter. Help me think through things that maybe I'm missing that should be included. And I will always, like, I never copy and paste from ChatGPT, at least not like verbatim. And so I'll pull it into an editor and tailor it to my voice to make sure that it's still me.
Right, because that's what we have to do on our end then, is like, they're resourceful, by utilizing the AI, but are they in integrity or whatever, like if they use it in a way that's an integrity versus they're copy and pasting. So it's just like, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. Yeah.
Or even
Yeah.
better, when they copy and paste and you can still see that, like, thanks Rusty for what a great thought, and then it, like,
Yeah.
they copied the whole thing. Those
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, yeah. I love it. Oh, that's great. One more example of how you're utilizing AI today in your organizations. I'd love to hear. Jeannie, how about you?
I think it depends on who on our team, just because we've got like data scientists all the way through to software developers. But some
Yeah.
of the easy ways are just using something like a Notebook LM, where you can just put all the relevant files and then just ask it questions and it'll answer your questions. So helpful for synthesis, helpful for those types of things. Sometimes for presentations, you can use it. Sometimes, honestly, like even if I just have a set of bullets or a mind dump, just getting that into, like paragraph formats is always really convenient and nice, because then you can just springboard off of there. So those are some like more lightweight ones. Sometimes we might use something more powerful for deeper research and data analysis. But yeah, for some of those, we'll use that in combination for the qualitative and the insights part, and pair that with something like a Tableau or a dashboard so people can see the data, but we've already kind of gleaned out some of the key points that we want to make sure pop up in a discussion.
Yeah, yeah. And that's just such a great pairing of the technologies as well. Just you were saying, being able to distill the data inside of a ChatGPT, for example, and get the key themes out of it, and then utilizing Tableau or another platform like that to be able to illustrate it and highlight, really pull it out. Yeah, it's a very nice pairing of the technologies. Love it. That's great. That's great. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'd like to shift and talk a little bit now about some of the, utilizing prompts. And, so again, some of us are newer into utilizing these tools, and others, as we were hearing, are more advanced in terms of how you're utilizing it. And so there's always a good reference point that I think, regardless of where we are on that spectrum, to bring ourselves back to kind of a solid foundation and a reminder of what are some of the important things for writing powerful prompts. And a prompt being effectively the instruction that you're giving the tool in terms of what you want it to do, either in creating fresh data or analyzing content, analyzing an email, looking for sentiment in the different language and a dialogue that's been taking place, any of those elements. So let's do a quick refresher on that, and a little bit of why these are important takeaways for us, so that we're utilizing the tools most effectively. So let's see here. Screen is frozen. Hang on just one moment. Second. So I get going here. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right. So first off, we want to make sure that we're clear and we're specific. So the clearer we can be with our instructions, just like we were hearing a little bit in the dialogue with David and Rusty, where we can be very clear what information we're looking for, what tone we want it to take, what persona we want it to take, make it sound more like me. For example, when I've utilized ChatGPT to help me in a dialogue, sometimes, like you were talking about, it'll come back and say, well, thank you very much, Rusty, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's not my voice. And then what I've been doing over time, though, is training the platform on my voice. And so the way that I ask questions, it's starting to pick up the intonations, it's starting to pick up kind of my cadence, if you will. And then I can say, well, that's great. Please write this in my voice, using my voice. And sure enough, it's gotten smart enough now that it comes back with a softer tone, or a more appropriate approach. So it's beginning to sound more and more like me. Not always, but close. Okay, but we do want to be really clear and specific about what we're looking for. The next piece is the context. And so sometimes this context is one of the things that we miss when we're writing a prompt. And I'll give you an example here very soon. When we're writing a prompt, we want to say, here's the context within which the answer will be delivered. So for example, if I'm writing an outline for a presentation that I want to do, or a training course that I want to do, I want to share it's a training course. It's going to be delivered to a executive audience. And maybe it's an executive audience that has a strong familiarity with the business strategy. So this is all really helpful context, so that when the tool generates a result for me, it's closer to what my end goal is. Okay, and that's really the only intention, important intention, but it really is the only intention of the context, is being able to provide as much framing as possible on this front end, so that my the first answer I get back, is really darn close. Okay, and then I'm able to fine tune from there. Okay. Now, are there sometimes they get off into the hinterland, so to speak, and I'm trying to give it instructions, and it's, my instructions aren't matching what it understands, and I have to start over? Absolutely. And of course, it's always okay to start over, right? Next is the expected format. And this is one of the pieces that is newer in helping to understand that you can ask for the input to be delivered back to you in a particular format. So this presentation is a great example of that. I provided our template, And I provided, here are some key messages. I shared what the outline and the key takeaways are for this session. And I asked it to please, pull information from a prior presentation as it relates to these foundational pieces, and to building new information as it relates to the organization development and those components, and to put it all in this format, in this template. And so you can ask it to deliver those results, not only in a PowerPoint format or a Word document format, and literally you can just write it out. Please provide this answer in a PowerPoint format, and it will provide it in that. Again, I'm working with the paid version of ChatGPT. Other versions, free ChatGPT won't deliver it in these formats, but other versions, Cloud AI, for example, I believe does provide it in the different formats in their free version. You can also just say, give me a list or a summary. Give me 3 sentences summarizing these results. So the expected format of the output is important. Tone and style, we talked a little bit about. So again, if you're developing a presentation or a course that's going to be delivered to an executive audience, rather than a course that's going to be delivered to maybe frontline staff in a manufacturing environment, your tone and the way that you lay things out, the technicality versus layman terms, that all of that becomes very relevant. And again, you can share that guidance, and I encourage you to share that guidance with the tool to help it give you the most powerful response back to begin with. And then the final piece in here, in terms of really powerful components, is limitations and boundaries. So if there are specific things, specific areas that you want the tool to avoid, then you can help make sure, again, that you've really contained the answer. Okay. So for example, let's say that you're operating in an environment where everyone is speaking Spanish, and you want your answers, even though your prompts are in English, you want your answers to all be back in Spanish. So you can say that, you can provide that limitation, say the answers should not be in English, the responses should all be in Spanish, and it will respond back with that. Okay, so those kinds of limitations and boundaries are really, really fascinating things that you can work with. Okay. So kind of the flip side of this, if we just think about the top reasons why prompts fail. And by failure, I mean that you end up with a response that is it's way off of what you were really going for, or it's quite a bit off. And you're finding you're having to do a lot of, no, please say it that way, please do it, blah, 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 and all of these refinements and stuff. I would call that a failure. So again, the lack of clarity or specificity. If you go vague, please give me an answer to blah, blah, blah. It could be all over the map on that. Okay. But if you give it a very precise prompt, and you'll see an example of this, the ambiguity in the language. Okay, where language and choice of language, if it can be open to multiple interpretations. And these things, don't worry about memorizing all of these things if you're newer into this space right now. What I encourage you to do is to get in, to ask questions, and really just, I call it play with it, right? So just really practice it and just, see how it works and see how you get better and better, and keep those items in mind, each one of these elements in terms of failures and what success can look like. Okay. One of the other things, I'll just kind of do a double click on here, is where you have inappropriate or restricted topics, right? So as the AI tools have evolved, there are built-in safeguards, okay? And those safeguards around illegal content, safeguards around content that might end up being misinterpreted in some way. You will get more cautious responses back. And so you can lean in on that if you like, in both directions. And what I mean by lean in is, for example, I'm working with a client right now, and we're going through a legal case. In that particular legal case, I'm working through kind of the positioning of language and making sure that that language, again, all scrubbed of identifiable data, making sure that that language is appropriate for the goals, I will also ask the reverse questions. For example, as I'm writing this one letter right now, it has to do with a leave of absence. And I asked for, give me some guidance, some information, give me, some guidance in terms of how to write this letter such that we've acknowledged receipt of the request for the leave of absence. However, we haven't made a decision on it yet. So we've received the request and we will get back to you on the decision. What's the appropriate way to write it? So I wrote it all that way, it gave me its answers back. Then I asked it the question, ChatGPT, the question, could this be misinterpreted as an acceptance of the leave of absence? And the response that I got back was, yeah, it actually could because of this language here. So, okay, rewrite it to ensure there is no ambiguity, to make sure that it is crystal clear, to make sure that it's really, understood. So I encourage, and that's why we talk about AI as a human tool, working side by side with us. Our orientation toward it, our utilization of it, and the way that we pressure test it, so to speak, is important. Okay, I think we had a quick question. Let's see here. David, go ahead and ask your question again real quick.
Oh, it
Okay.
wasn't a question. I think it was just a comment on a use case. You can use AI to help you craft a prompt to get better results from the same AI.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, it's using AI to help learn how to use AI, right? Absolutely. Beautiful. All right. So let's go ahead and, from this standpoint, I would say, the master tip to take away as we dive in now is around, think about AI as your new college grad hire. Some of you have heard me refer to it this way before. This is a exceptionally smart tool that you're working with and has access to a plethora of information, is very eager to help. And with some good guidance, good direction, good context, you're able to point it in the direction that you want it to go to. And again, think of it as a dialogue. Okay. So that way we can just really make sure that we're able to go ahead and, refine things from there. Thanks, Jeannie. Appreciate it. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and dive in. So one of the things that I thought would really be interesting is to take a look at a couple of resumes and ask the tool to analyze the key profile skills that are on these resumes. These are 3 people that are exceptional individuals. We're actually, in this particular case, they're actually exceptional individuals who are on our team. And they've got some really important skills, some powerful skills. And what we're interested in doing, what I'm interested in doing, is highlighting what those top skills are, and then specifically, though, in the context of creating some development coursework around it, because in OD, we want to, in this particular case, we want to replicate those skills. Okay, so let me go ahead and pop over here real quick. And all right, so I'm just going to craft a prompt here real fast. Please review these talent profiles and identify the top 3 skills that appear across all 3 individuals. Okay, so I'm looking for commonality. These are all top performers. So I'd like to know some commonality across these 3, across these individuals that create what differentiates them, right? Again, for purposes of creating a development course. Okay. From the perspective of creating a talent development. Okay. And at the moment, I'm not going to ask it to actually do a develop the course just yet. But what I do want to do is, let's just go ahead and got it here. Pretty sure I've got it here on my desktop. No, I just had somebody just join back in. Okay. With me. Okay. All right, so we're going to develop these or take a look at these three, identify the top 3 skills that appear across all 3 individuals. So we're looking for commonality. The context is that we want to do the analysis from the perspective of creating a talent development course. All right, I'm going to drop this into the chat real quick, and you may or may not be able to copy it as well, but as Naomi just mentioned as well, we will also send the list of all of these prompts to you, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and let's just see what it comes back with here. Okay, all right. So the 3 skills that appear consistently across all 3, leadership and team development, all right, a little bit of background, and then course focus area, because again, I asked it to, to do this in the context of developing a course. Okay. All right. Strategic planning and execution, and then also employee engagement. Okay. So with your OD hat on, often what we're thinking about is what talents differentiate our top performers. And with those talents in mind, how do I create more of that in my organization? Okay. Now, the tool is anticipating. So I've already started to set up, because of the context I provided, I've already started to set up that anticipation. It's starting to know what kinds of questions to ask me as well. So would I like help designing the structure or content for this talent development course? Remember, I mentioned that one of the things I wanted to show you was how we could literally create a course, a summary, give me a summary of the course, tell me what the top 3 takeaways will be, provide an agenda. And we'll say, let's go ahead and let's say it's a 1-hour agenda for the course. And then I want some breakouts built into that course as well. Okay. So now I talk again, like this is a partner that I'm working with. Yes, please. So yeah, the dialogue, right? So yes, please create an outline for the course, including these 3 elements. Provide a summary. Woo! The 3 top takeaways and an agenda for a 1-hour session that includes 1 breakout group. All right, so let's see what it comes back with. Okay, and while it's doing that, I'll copy this over as well. All right, and let's just see what it's given us. Okay, all right, there we go. So, so it's come with an overarching perspective of development, building high impact teams. Okay, so it's kind of pulled a common theme out of leadership, strategy, and employee engagement. So my course title, Building High Impact Teams. Here's a nice little summary. It knows it's going to be interactive, right? So it's an interactive session. There are breakout groups. It understands that now just based on what I've shared with it thus far. Okay. A little bit of what the key pillars are that'll be explored: strategic planning, execution, engagement, retention, and why it's helpful, real world examples, collaborative discussion. Okay. Again, what the 3 takeaways are going to be. All right. And then on top of that, now I've got an agenda. So I've got a rough agenda that I can work with in terms of how that hour will flow. Okay. Now, if we want to accelerate it just a little bit further, okay, we could put in here a template. So if you have a PowerPoint template that you work with in your organization, you can drop that template, drop a copy of it here, or if you have another presentation that you've utilized, you can just attach that here as well and ask it to align this content or to drop this content into your template. Okay, and then you can also ask it to add images. So you can go from what I'll call just zero concept. I've got a couple of individuals, high potentials, and I know they've got some common aspects here, all the way to what we've created now inside of about 3 minutes. To be able to go to, here's my outline, here's a summary, here's this captured information. If I wanted to drop it into a presentation, you know how to do that now. Talk to you about how to do that. But even if I just wanted to put all of this into a Word document, we can do that. Okay, so we'll just ask it to please put it into a Word document. So it's taking all of that content now, it's going to drop it into a Word document. And now I've got something that's readily shareable, and I can pass it around inside of the organization as well and just ask people to provide feedback. Okay. Any questions or thoughts about that? Okay. All right. Pretty cool stuff. Okay. Now we'll let it continue to do its analyzing there. And let's go ahead and let's look at another one here. Okay. All right. Okay. So this one I mentioned earlier on. What I want to do is I'm going to do an organization structure evaluation, and from that perspective, what I'm going after ultimately is going to be compensation structures to support it. So I'm going to start out though with an org chart. Oh, here's my Word document right here, so I can download that and just take a quick look at it and see that it's all right here in a nice editable Word document that can be shared and passed around with everybody. Okay, there we go. Okay, you can use this obviously if you have policies around development or other organization policies that you're responsible for, employee engagement policies, again, anywhere that you have templates, or if you need to develop a template. To David's point, one of the things is always very cool is utilizing the tool and asking the tool to provide an example back. Ask it how to utilize it, for example. We can even ask ChatGPT to create a training session on how to use ChatGPT. Okay, and that can be quite interesting. So let's try this. This is a new one. I haven't done this before, and I'm always excited to, you know, take some shots here and see what happens. So I'm going to ask it to please take a look at the attached org chart and provide feedback without using individual names, but using position titles only. Okay. And the feedback that I wanted to provide, so I want to get specific. Okay, so that's an important piece. You remember, be specific, be precise. So I wanted to provide feedback on potential, what I'm looking for are bottlenecks. So we'll call workflow bottlenecks. And we'll see how it interprets that without using individual names, but using position titles only. Okay. And so from an OD perspective, again, you know, often we're looking at what is the organization design, and you can literally, you know, we can take two designs and put them both in and ask the tool to provide some comparisons and pros and cons of each design. Okay. In fact, with this one, we'll say, what are the advantages of this particular design? Okay, and we'll see what it comes back with on this. And then we'll have it actually give us some feedback in terms of compensation structures. Again, from the broader OD perspective, we're thinking about talent retention as well. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to add this here and grab it from the downloads. Okay, let's just drop this in. Okay. All right. And let's go ahead and let's just see what it comes back with here. Okay. All right. So workflow bottlenecks and advantages, focus on position titles. Okay. Potential backflow or workflow bottlenecks. Yeah, centralized decision making. So this is a very hierarchical design. And show you all the pieces of it, but it is, you know, very traditional hierarchical design. And one of the things that, in fact, this group does deal with, and I can attest to, it is around this particular position, is, you know, this particular leader is directly responsible for about a third of the entire headcount. And so there are some specific department issues that come up. In fact, it's an operations position. And so as you would expect, it has things like finance, it has things like IT, delivery. So it's got that particular role is responsible for what are sometimes competing organizations as well. Cross-department coordination. So, you know, recognizing that there is always that potential, right, for cross-departmental or siloing. Sometimes we talk about it in terms of design. So from a siloing design perspective, right, what the tool is picking up is that actually a couple levels down, that there might be some issue in communication. And so the takeaway on this in terms of the importance of streamlined communication and making sure that there's good communication in particular. And as you can imagine, between finance and logistics, inventory and cost management, right? Right. So this is definitely, you know, one way that, again, for us in the HR space, in the OD space, the things that we're often asked to do in terms of helping to evaluate an organization, helping to design an organization, how to create something that is effective. This is another way that we can get one more lens on that, that environment, that context. Okay. All right. Let me drop that prompt in. So you can grab that as well if you like, if you want to work with your, let's see here, work with your organization as well. Okay. So there we go. Okay. All right. Excellent. All right. Okay. Now let's ask it to provide a redesign, and let's see what comes back. Okay. We'll say position titles only, so we can take a look at it together. That improves communication. And, you know, and some organizations, you know, are utilizing pods. They're utilizing more of the, you know, holacracy kind of structures. You know, you're utilizing different structures, and you can drill in based on your unique structure to be able to figure out, right, where are the nuances, where are some of the challenges potentially, and then how to improve things, both through the use of communication tools, the use of other mechanisms, all around, again, the organization design and the development of the organization. Okay. Right. Please provide this in a PowerPoint. All right, so let's just see what it comes back with and how, you know, it would suggest redesigning in order to improve communication and workflow. So I've kind of given it a context there, and you know, again, an opportunity to leverage the tool. Okay. Now, again, as you know, as you're going through and you're utilizing the tools, some of the ethical pieces as well start to come about, because you know, as we're utilizing this internal to your organization, it may be important for you to create a policy around the transparency and the use of the tools for any of your policies. One of the things that that we recommend is if you are utilizing AI to draft your policies, that you make a note of that in your policies, that AI was used to assist in the development of the policy. And why that's important is from a defensibility perspective. You know, the user, obviously at the end of the day, whoever has signed off on the policy, and of course the company is ultimately responsible. However, if you also incorporate in there full transparency that you've utilized AI to help in the development of it, it creates a level of trust and understanding. If there are some errors that popped in there and maybe slipped past. Okay. So I always recommend, and we recommend with our clients as well, that you utilize those kinds of statements for transparency purposes. Okay. Let's go ahead and let's just see out of curiosity. Again, have never done this before, so it is a new experience. And let's just see from an org structure. So a little bit of what it's doing. So it hasn't given me a picture, doesn't draw an org chart, but it looks like one of the things that it's doing is it's actually streamlining the organization a bit more. So in terms of top leadership. So right now, this particular CEO has 8 people reporting directly to him. And in this scenario, because of the way the work is flowing and the interactions, it's actually recommending a consolidation of that as well. Okay, something to consider. All right. So, so it gives us a little bit of, just some thoughts and ideas in terms of how we can leverage the tool in these particular areas. Okay. So I'd love to hear inside of your organizations, where do you feel some of the tension between technology and the human connection? As we're bringing a tool like AI in, and, great reflections from David, for example, and Rusty and Jeannie in terms of, how the tools are being used. Love to hear from an OD perspective some of the challenges that we're facing and that tension between technology and the human connection. So let me just drop everybody into a quick breakout room again. So you can talk a little bit about that and how you're overcoming it. There is that fear aspect, I guess I would call it, in terms of, is the technology going to take over my role, or how do I use it, or is it safe to use, or, whatever those things are. So let me pop everybody into some breakout rooms again here real quick. And we'll have about 2 people per room thereabouts, so I'll keep it small. Let me go ahead and drop you into these discussions, and I'm looking forward to your feedback. All right, we'll plan on, David, I heard you, so let's go for 3 minutes this time. All right, here we go.
do it because you're
All right. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Fantastic. Good, good, good. Okay, so I am eager to hear one or two examples of how the technology and kind of that tension, if you will. Would love to hear some of the insights that you had in your groups. Paola, would you be open to sharing?
Yeah, hi, this is Paula. We were just talking about how kind of employees now have a choice to make. You know, we're all so busy throughout the day. You got to figure out like, do you invest in yourself, whether it's during work hours or after hours, to continue to stay relevant, or do you just focus so much on your role that you might be left behind? And I think that's a really valid point to make, because being in HR, you're bombarded with things, you know, the entire time that you're working. And now with a remote environment, sometimes I'm working, you know, 8, 9 o'clock at night. Where do you draw that line to continue to learn and invest in technologies like this? But if you don't do it, will you be left behind?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's such a great reflection, and and a question around it. And I, what kind of answers did you come up with in your group?
I was in the group as well. I don't think we got around to trying to answer that one because that's a tough one. Although, like, I think there, as Paula mentioned in our time together, it's trying to be very thoughtful around how you spend your time, because there's always like people feel like they're overly busy all the time, but in reality, there's probably like a meeting you could cut. There's probably a some way to make more time in your day to get some learning in with AI. I think the
Yeah.
tricky part is, as I think I had mentioned during our time, that breakout was, leaders are expecting, a lot of leaders now, at least the ones that I've like big, like public, CEOs and whatnot, like the public pronouncements, they want AI adoption like yesterday.
Mm,
But
yeah.
they fail to, I think they fail to make the space for the learning because it does take time. And so they're like, you're going to get left behind if you don't adopt this like right now to 10x 100x your productivity. I think they fail to actually see you know how long it actually takes to get really good at using a tool like this. Like, I think it's faster than it has been, but I think there's still a curve, and I think they forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's very true. One of the aspects that I do think is a positive about at least the generative AI and the tools, what we've been working with here and the examples that you were sharing earlier, is that this tool in particular seems to be a little bit easier once you get people across what I call the technology threshold, kind of get them into the tool and give them some of the foundational pieces that we've talked about. And some of the examples Rusty was sharing earlier as well, and creating those forums. We get people just starting to use it. I think that it's a pretty quick learning curve is one of the nice things about this particular tool in comparison with other tools that we've seen rolling out. And in the past, it takes a little bit longer, a couple hours to learn how to use, right? This one you almost learn as you go, right? And then to your point, a lot of leaders are like, you want it now, right? And then they do miss that there's still a learning curve there, and to what degree do they want to involve and integrate in the technology solution, because it can become so pervasive in the organization without good governance around it, that can introduce some of its own problems too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they're also not being extremely clear on like what areas can AI make the most impact. They just want like all across the board. They just want AI.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that AI still has limitations. It's not going to solve everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough one that I think we'll still see throughout the rest of this year and maybe beyond.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. All right, good. Well, thank you. Thank you both for sharing, sharing the perspective and a bit of your conversation as well. As we're coming up to the wrap, we're at the bottom of the hour and scheduled to wrap up for this. So we've got information that's being shared for everybody here who stayed with us through the session. We do have the credits for recertification, so that'll be coming as well. One of the things that I'd love for you to also do is just jot down for yourself, one actionable insight that you picked up today to be able to take back and to implement for yourself or for your team, to take that back for yourself. Invite you to do that, and of course, we are available, as you heard, Shelley, you're working closely. Shelley is off of the Pendolino team. And, from her work with Rusty, you kind of get a sense of the ways that we do work with our clients in the AI space. That we do provide broad HR and all aspects of HR. And so if you're interested in doing a deeper dive, kind of learning a little bit more, even just some more tips and tricks through a general conversation, we'd love to have that with you as well. Happy to share information, no obligation, of course, because we are all in it together. In HR and NOD, and what we do in terms of bringing these kinds of great technologies to our profession. And so feel free to sign up for a quick session. There will be a link also for a quick survey in terms of how the session worked for you and other sessions that you may be interested in the future. And we are just about to launch a certification course. That certification course will focus in on the various sub-functions of HR that I mentioned. And we'll be doing a deep dive and utilizing generative AI and other AI technologies in each one of those sub-functions. So with that certification, then you'll be able to take that out into your professional career as well, and have a very, very strong working knowledge across all of the functional areas of HR. So I will open it up. Just if there are any remaining questions at all, I'm happy to stay on the line. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for the rich conversation. I truly appreciate it. I always learn, and I'm super excited to see what you're going to be creating with this. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for joining. Just be on the lookout for an email for with the recording and the list of our prompts that we covered today. Have a great day, everyone. And Paula might have stepped away, so I'll just, oh, there we go. Okay, I think that's it.
Oops, don't report.
Yeah, all right. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording.
Codes, could you please, oh, whoops. Codes, could you please put them back? Whoops, oops, oops, oops.
Oh.
That came from Paula.
Oh.
Can we bring it back?
I will, oops, I'll email her, yeah.
Email. Okay, all right, sounds good.